The project started out looking at buildings in flux. I thought it was a very interesting topic, so I started looking into all the ideas of flexibility. Also, with the COVID-19 situation, it seemed like a very relevant topic because here we had a very clear example of drastic change happening really fast and the whole built environment having to work around it. Change seems to be an unavoidable reality. To kind of rephrase Socrates, the only thing we know is that we don't know what's going to happen next. The preface briefly goes through all that has been done and tried before me. It was very interesting to see all the many options that had been explored, but also I realized that many of these options didn't really bring a lot of change with them. They didn't really have a long-lasting impact. Yet today we see a lot of those similar type of ideas being brought up, implemented, but I still wanted to have a more critical look on them. The main essay focuses on that. The project switched from looking for answers to raising questions. At the end, there's a short epilogue that takes a slightly different approach, thinking of unnecessary space as another path towards flexible architecture. The first question I asked myself was, can we actually design for the long term? One of the most recurrent ideas for long-term building is the idea of a framework. But that brings a whole new set of questions with it. How do we decide on a basic unit? What size should the basic unit of dwelling be? And at what scale does working with averages and statistics stop making sense? We live in a society where family structures are more and more complicated. We live in a society where lifestyles are very diverse. Are we going to lose design freedom and architectural quality? Would a framework be compatible with this Belgian dream of a suburban villa? Is the framework inherently flawed? So if long-term doesn't really work, what about short-term? Is temporary design possible? Of course, constant renewal isn't really an option because the speed of change is way bigger than the time we need for things to regenerate. So to work around this, we could work with demountable architecture. But soon all the same questions pop up. It's like, which size should we use? What module? Are we going to lose freedom and architectural quality? Plus, when you look at the changing standards and the norms, will we build the same way tomorrow as we build today? So after examining those two questions of short-term and long-term, we're met with a third. Should we build in the first place? Like, what value has design if it's intrinsically just a materialization of a moment in time of which we know already that it will not last? In Belgium, for example, vacant buildings aren't exactly a rarity. Working with the existing brings a whole new set of questions. What should we keep? What can we change? How do we manage issues of legacy, of heritage, of authenticity? What should we continue to remember and what should we forget? How do we deal with architectural authorship when questions of accountability seem to be unavoidable? How do we decide that what has been is more interesting than what could be? And if we're looking at it from another perspective, if making people care makes buildings last, then how do we design architecture that people will care about? So how do we work from there? Because whatever we do, it never seems to work out the way we planned it. Architecture happens in a very complex world, and there's only so much that we can control. Yet despite all this, we keep drawing and modeling, hoping to design something that will be able to encompass all the variables, adapt to every possible scenario, manage to transcend the times, a foolproof architecture. But this is not ultimately an outdated utopia.